service looking at the repercussions of the Syrian war in Turkey.
The war in Syria has displaced over half its people.
I feel sorry for them. The Syrians are victims. Where can they go?
I feel sad about what happened to my country.
Forced to flee their homes, 3.6 million Syrians have ended up as refugees in Turkey.
We have 500,000 people born here. So are they Turks? Are they Syrians? What are they?
But more than a decade after the war in Syria began, hate towards refugees living in Turkey has seen a sharp rise.
When you say that you're Syrian, you don't know what the person's reaction is going to be.
I'm Hannah Lucinda Smith. I'm seeing how Turkey has been transformed by the civil war that's still raging next door in Syria.
How could we send them back? They don't feel secure in Syria.
My Forgotten War. Tuesday at 9:30 and 20 GMT. Or listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
Coming up, World Book Club with me, Harriet Gilbert. And this month we're talking with Xiaolu Guo about her novel A Concise Chinese-English Dictionary for Lovers. Narrated by a young Chinese woman in London to learn English, filled with witty insights into British cultural quirks and our heroine's own Chinese background, it's a romantic comedy about two people who neither speak each other's language nor understand each other's culture. World Book Club with Xiaolu Guo after the news.
BBC News with Emily Thomas. More than a month into the fighting in Israel and Gaza, the US Secretary of State has outlined what should happen when the conflict ends. Antony Blinken said Gaza and the West Bank should be united under the Palestinian Authority. At the G7 foreign ministers meeting in Japan, he said there should be no Israeli occupation of Gaza. A leading member of the Hezbollah militant group in Lebanon has praised the attack by Hamas, which left 1,400 people dead in Israel, as a great achievement for the Palestinians. Hezbollah's deputy chief told the BBC the killings were an inevitable act of resistance. State elections in parts of the US have provided a boost for the Democratic Party and abortion rights advocates. In Ohio, people voted to change the state constitution to guarantee the right to abortion. In Virginia, the Democrats gained full control of the state legislature. China's vice president has said there are signs of improving relations with the US. He told a conference in Singapore that Beijing was ready to hold talks on all levels. A UN report has found that expansion plans by the world's biggest fossil fuel producers would push the planet far beyond agreed climate targets. It concluded that many countries would also breach their own policies on carbon emissions. Residents in Ethiopia's Amhara region have accused government forces of causing civilian casualties with drone strikes and indiscriminate shelling. Fighting in the area has intensified between the army and local militias. It began in August after the Ethiopian government ordered a regional paramilitary group to disband. A system breakdown at one of Australia's biggest telecoms firms has caused severe disruption. Hospitals, public services and transport were all hit. It's not clear what caused the problem at Optus. Millions of Australians were left without phone or internet services. BBC News.
Hello, this is World Book Club, and here with us answering questions about her ingenious novel, A Concise Chinese-English Dictionary for Lovers, is its Chinese-born British author, Xiaolu Guo. One of the things for me that's striking and distinctive about the novel is the way it actually looks on the page. As well as the straightforward text, you quite often, for instance, introduce a block of Chinese text or handwriting. When Zed is going through her boyfriend's papers and diaries, we see those excerpts from those actually in his handwriting. And you have the dictionary definitions at the top, and there's a lot of white space. And I just wondered how much, given particularly that you are also a filmmaker, how much the look of the novel on the page matters to you.
It is very important for me visually to insert my, first or original sort of identity, or linguistic identity. I can't lose my first language, So how do I sort of influence my readers by introduce a bit, slightly, not too imposing. So your question actually answered, what I'm trying to do visually.
This novel often made me laugh. And Zed is studying English words. This is quite early on. And she says, English words made from only 26 characters? Are English a bit lazy or what? We have 50,000 characters in Chinese.
So these are typically, very naive. It's almost nationalistic education the character inherited, right, from her past. As a writer, I'm a very mixed kind of product. I'm from the East and the West. But the character Z is reclaiming her pride, her cultural identity, her linguistic identity in the foreign culture, in Britain. And that, indeed creates war between her and her lover, and it becomes this battle of two cultures. And these two major, this imperial culture fighting in this tiny little bedroom space.
Xiaolu, an email now that was sent to BBC World Book Club from Sadhu Sader. And he's referring to the fact that Zed not only has the sexual relationship with this boyfriend we've been talking about, but when he sends her off travelling around Europe, she has one or two near sexual encounters and one rather unfortunate encounter. I think she's in Portugal at that point. Anyway, Sadhu Sader asks, what is the difference, if any, between sexual morality in China and in Europe?
This is a very big question. I mean, it's interesting, I think this novel is this young character that explore her life, but also her sexual experience. Someone lived in a conservative environment in China, in her parents' house. So I think for a writer like me, it's just to explore the question of the boundary of the freedom and between the danger and the safety for a young woman, on her quest of this sexual freedom. Then again, this is a very old issue, from, the generation pre-60s feminist, what is a boundary, between the female sexual freedom and the danger and the disadvantage? Even though, we are vivid, rich, incomprehensible individual in this world, we are so conditioned by the bringing up, by the cultural inheritance. And she is the product of this mixed Confucian feudal concept of woman's place and this communistic concept in China, and the woman holds half sky, but without deep and further extensive discussion what really that means, right, after the workplace. So it is indeed in this book, she goes on this kind of dangerous sexual adventure. I think for me it was kind of important to write those pages because I think that's, in a young woman's experiences, these are unsaid, untold, but common physical experience. And I think a novel is a very good place to deal with those discussions without giving explicit or educational answer. In the end, she recovers, from all this misadventure and adventure, damaged but also enriched. Freedom is always kind of right on the cost of price. I think youth is a dangerous chapter, really. You can't avoid it.
Another question from Jess Barble.
Your book features a strong protagonist trying to navigate a foreign culture. Could you share some of your thoughts on the representation of women in literature and the challenges that they face in a multicultural setting?
These are great questions, but I think it's very complicated, for a novelist to write with freedom but without self-censorship, because I think a lot of issues these days, for a novelist, you have to be very careful. And I guess for me, first time I left my native country, came to the West, the way I wrote was so raw, primitive, no self-censorship at all. There's no boundary in the imagination and in expression, apart from the linguistic difficulties, And I think, therefore, I guess a lot of interesting intricacy, came out from this novel because it's very frank. It didn't try to hide any experience, or it didn't try to be correct, and didn't try to be a correct feminist without going through actually a certain kind of quite painful experience, right? And I think her character is basically full on, lived through bad or good, wonderful and a damaging experience.
There's a kind of interesting duality because partly she's risking, when she goes to Europe in particular, when she's travelling around, she puts herself in the way of a lot of danger from men, and mercifully, most of the time, okay. But very early on, you were reading a passage when she first arrives in London, said, and she's frightened being out on the streets, and she doesn't know what it means, that there are beggars there, and what two men having a cigarette, what that's about. And I think, isn't that true when you're somewhere that you don't know very well, particularly as a woman? You're not sure which the safe streets are, you're not sure what the danger signs are. I mean, there is, and I think it's particularly for women, there is that sense of not understanding quite what is dangerous and what is safe.
Absolutely. Actually, this novel has been studied, in some university as a literature from a certain city. a foreigner, a young girl, navigates the space of London. Women relation to the public space is very dubious, strange. I often found I avoided walking on the street with loud, drunken men. They think they own that space, and I don't like the feeling, and I don't want to participate in that ownership of that public space. And this is an awful feeling. I think a lot of young girls, especially foreigners, just kind of totally lost where you should walk in certain hours of the day or night. And Zed experiences kind of alienation in the foreign street of London until a year or 2 years later, she felt part of it.
We've got a question now that was rung in by Valerie Thiemer, who's a book blogger.
Hi, my name is Valerie and I'm based in Düsseldorf, Germany, and I blog about books as nonsense and sensibility. I absolutely loved your novel. It moved me deeply and has stayed with me ever since I read it 3 years ago. The book was published in 2008, roughly 10 years before the Me Too movement started, causing an increased sensibility in regard to sexual exploitation. Do you think the relationship between the narrator and her English boyfriend is perceived differently now? And in light of this, would you write the story differently today?
Yeah, it's great, interesting question. Time changes, our narrative changes, but I could never really write such a story, 20 years later, as a mother, as someone who experienced, quite a lot of life in different countries. But in this novel, both characters are quite innocent in their own way. Their innocence could be questioned terribly these days. But then we are the hopeless product of certain time and history and its propaganda in each culture. So for a novelist, I think it's really important to return them as a real person at that time without censoring them or making politically correct for a fiction narrative. I think the key is they are completely sincere with a lot of mistakes about life. This battle between the two is a real thing, the exchange, the violence between them in the name of love, right?
You say violence, but it's not physical violence.
In this book, the two loves doesn't have the physical violence,
No.
but if they have physical violence in this novel, it won't remove their love. For me, for a storyteller, it's really important, as John Berger said, how the past should be recorded, and we should be somehow sort of honest to look at that history, but sensitive to look at a relationship in a certain time of period.
I'm interested that you chose to make him the lover, the boyfriend, such a very gentle, and there are problems. He doesn't want, he's a commitment phobe, I think you could say. He really does not want what she wants. She wants to get married, she wants a family, she wants to have children. He absolutely doesn't want that. In fact, they've got so many things they're incompatible with. He doesn't eat meat, he likes to live in the country, she likes to live in the town. You think, even if they were both British or both Chinese, it probably would have been a difficult relationship. But you chose to make him basically kind. He is not abusive of her. Did you ever think of having that differently?
No, I never. Actually, Harriet, thank you for such a kind of close-up reading. This is really, you really have read really very
Of course I've read your book.
So every sentence you spoke, really, I know exactly which page you meant. So this is beautiful for me to hear. Thank you. No, because I think when I was writing this novel, I was exactly that kind of innocent, totally engaged young women in the relation of love. There's no judgment in that kind of heart. I mean, in this book, he's bisexual, or starts from homosexual. He's a homosexual man, and she didn't even care. That kind of crazy, kind of totally dedicated love, mismatched love. And I think if you lived many more years with certain kind of social education, you wouldn't even fall in love with someone like that at all. And I guess that's the funny or strangeness of this book. There's no judgment on the other, whoever they are. Actually,
let's have another reading now from the novel, Xiaolu. This is Zed thinking about the loneliness of her experience of Britain.
I think the loneliness in this country is something very solid, very heavy. It is touchable and reachable easily. The loneliness comes to me in certain hours every day, like a visitor, like a friend you never expected, a friend you never really want to be with, but He always visits you and loves you somehow. When the sun leaves the sky, when the innermost darkness swallows the last red strip in the horizon, from that moment, I can see the shape of the loneliness in front of me, then surround my body, my night, my dream. Something missing, something lost in my life, and something which used to fulfill in my China life. We don't have much the individuality concept in China. We are collective, and we believe in collectivism, collective farm, collective leadership. Now we have group life insurance, 集体人寿保险, from the government as well. Now when I was in middle school, we started group dancing. We danced with 200 students as part of the school lesson. We have to dance exactly the same pace and the same movement in the same music. Maybe that's why I never feel lonely in China.
Xiaolu, thank you very much indeed. We've got a question now that was emailed to World Book Club from Toledo, Ohio, in the US, from Harvey Lau. How much have your East-West perspectives changed, if they have, from when you wrote a concise Chinese-English dictionary for lovers to the present? So in the last 20 years or so.
I think enormously, incredibly. I had to write a book called Radical, actually, this year, last few years, to address that, the change, and there's a difference as well. It's comparative experience. My Chinese life is 30 years, my Western life 20 years, so my China life is still longer than my Western life. But my formative years is really around 30 something, after I left China almost, because I think I was mentally very young when I was living in China with just very kind of certain, strange or, limited education, even though I don't regret that. For example, I think the idea of individual freedom, the idea of democracy, idea of a functional society, or idea of power for collective society, these things are immensely changed. But also, as I mentioned earlier, being a vegetarian and, looking at my almost 49 years life of eating meat, this kind of relentless, really eating what we are offered from the industry. These are quite big changes, how we look at nature, how we should bring up children, but personal and very kind of public, social, those issues.
Xiaolu, thank you. And we have another question from Mas Hare in the UK now, but who grew up in Spain, in Asturias. And here it is.
In the book, at least from my interpretation of it, it seemed like Set's identity was expanding and adopting elements of a new culture. This process seemed conflictive for her, an internal fight which eventually caused her to feel like she couldn't fully fit in anywhere. I'd love to hear your thoughts about where our mixed cultural identities can take us and how this diversity can be an asset, for us and for others, rather than a source of miscommunication and confusion. I'm trying to find an answer to this myself, trying to see how the ideas and experiences I bring from my country can be useful in my new life.
I think it depends, what kind of expression or art form or, what kind of work, format you are expressing, right? I think the art form can be transformed and translated in a very rich way. But I think it's a great thinking. You will realize, this should be the diversity, should be the added on, should be the enrichment, As long as we realize that, I'm sure you find your way, you find your expression, bring both together. And I think this is exactly actually when I try to teach my students in creative writing class, how they should bring their mother culture, their first culture, if they live in a second or third culture. Because that is really the uniqueness about you, being the storyteller.
Okay, Xiaolu, thank you very much. And back to Düsseldorf in Germany, where Valerie Thiemer sent you this question.
How do you see yourself as a writer who writes in both Chinese and English and who lives in different countries? Do you identify more with one culture or language than another?
I guess the first 10 years I did, I struggled with certain kind of, classical cultural identity crisis. Who am I if I'm writing in the Anglophone language? I didn't say I'm writing in British English or American English, because I know the way I wrote is kind of universal, mixed, strange, kind of, my own kind of English. But still there's a crisis as a writer, because for traditional writer, if you're a French writer, French is your identity. But this phenomenon changed so much with the new generation bring up by both parents who spoke other languages other than the country they were born in, like my child, for example. It become less so pressing about identity. It's more about values, right? What kind of value? But again, values also mixed, and you can have both very different values from other cultures. For me, it's more like, how should I live in an agreeable, more organic life, in terms of my art practice and my very personal life. That's the way I know I answer in a strange way, but I do feel I identify more sort of fluid, more organic life, which I can live freely, but also, write my novels, make my films in my own way without submitting to this kind of power of censorship under this propaganda machine, And I think that's a life you have to create, whether you are in a free country or non-free country. Everything is conditional. So you must, I tell myself, I must try to create that. And it's fragile. I have to protect it to my own life.
You've said earlier that this novel wasn't published in mainland China. Has any of your work been published in mainland China?
Actually, this novel, some years later, was translated into Chinese, actually. I think I refused this to be translated into Eastern Asian language because I just think it's really wrong. Maybe it could be translated into German or broken French, because the experience is sort of European linguistic experience. But if once you translate it back, the linguistic side is not able to, you can't translate that, with verbal conjugation in East Asian language. So I said no for years. But somehow, I don't know what happened. Then perhaps I just kind of let it go, or it doesn't matter. As long as they published the original on the left page. So it was published. And I didn't look at, more than 3 sentences, because I'm very kind of rough, I'm very, almost like I didn't care, I thought, okay, I have done the original work. The rest doesn't matter.
It's quite an interesting thought that a whole generation of young Chinese people are going to learn English from the English in this novel.
I hope not.
Anyway, a question now from a British listener to BBC World Book Club.
I'm Simon Sliders from Stroud in the UK. My question is, I wonder what your literary influences were in your youth. Chinese literature, English or world literature, and what languages you read them in?
Wonderful question. Yeah, this is very important. I think writers often quite snobbish, like they judge you from, what kind of literary school you come from. I mean, it's funny, my bring up is really the mix of Russian revolutionary literature, like Dr. Zhivago, and European literature. I remember, the first time when I read Duras, for example, I was so really just in love with it. And, Calvino, a lot of French.
Are you talking about Marguerite Duras?
Marguerite Duras, I'm sorry, yeah. So when I first time read Marguerite Duras was such an important influence on me. But I also remember, reading Calvino, maybe around 19 or 20, Italo Calvino, and also, later on Sartre. And I also remember reading Boris Vian, The Form of Days. It was so important for me, an idea of the youth and the beauty and the tragedy of youth. I think that really kind of influenced a lot of my writing. And I have to mention Roland Barthes, which
Roland Barthes
was super important for me, in my university years. But also, I want to mention B Generation, Ginsberg, for example, Kerouac. Those translations were really well done in Chinese language. So you have to say, what kind of translation worked in Chinese language then? And then what kind of writer you become? I'm really one of those writers read from the Western, translation. And I think I remember reading Sylvia Plath. Those poetry in my late teens was very strange, ununderstandable, but has this very magical, dangerous seduction to me as a young girl. The imagination was so different from my kind of youth. So these are the works I read when I was young.
Xiaolu, thank you very much. And Actually, still on the phone is Luke in Amsterdam. Luke, you've got another question I know you want to ask.
Yeah, I was also curious how you picture Zed is doing now, like, or a couple of years after the book ends. Like, does she ever return to England? Does she end up back with her parents' company? How does she look back at all of this later in life?
So how do you imagine Zed now? What's she doing? How does she look back on all this that she experienced?
I love how you ask this, because as if she's this completely real person. She might be so real out there, part of me as well. I felt really difficult I imagine her or keep her, still young as that, her age. I'm sure she has grown up as I become older, 20 years later.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Are you looking for the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy door-to-door shipment company? Well, look no further. When was the last time your family received a shipment back in Ghana on time and in time? You are not sure? Well, Lamb Shippers, we pride ourselves with being the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy shippers you can use. You are assured of a prompt pickup anywhere in the UK by our personnel. They also make sure your items are well packaged to get to its destination in time. When it comes to door-to-door shipment, look no further. Well, Lamb Shippers, contact us on 07939009321 or 07498911820. Or you can visit our website www.welllamp.co.uk. You can also drop us a mail, info@welllamp@gmail.com. Well Lamp Shippers, fast, reliable, and trustworthy.
Hi there. Are you dreaming of owning your own house in Ghana? Then you will need a well-documented piece of land that is free from troubles. I highly recommend My Africa Property for any size of land that you will need. With My Africa Property, lands are available in Prampram, Sopoli, Tohenia, Ogome, Dodova, Winneba, and many other locations at affordable prices. These locations are about an hour away from the airport, only 35 minutes from the motorway, 10 minutes drive from Central University College, 10 minutes drive to the beach, and close to Prampram Senior High School and Ghana Men's Soccer Center of Excellence. For more details, visit our website www.myafricaproperty.com or call our UK office on 0208 123 2523. For our US and Canada offices, call us on +1 585 184 994145. You can also email us at ghana@myafricaproperty.com. Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
And that means that we will be giving you all the headlines in just about a few minutes. As we say, this is still the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. My name is Olayomi Koiki, and I welcome each and every one of you that have joined us so far this morning. Well, good morning, and it is the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. I welcome each and every one of us as we, join us this morning again. It is the morning show, and I'm also sitting for Archie until 12 noon. And then later on this evening, we'll be telling you more about what is going to be happening on the Niger Voices on the other side as well. But for now, I say good morning to each and every one of you that have joined us. And I say welcome to the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. First and foremost, as you know how we do it on the platform, we give you the the traffic, we tell you the weather, and we're also going to be telling you all the latest news coming out of Nigeria. There's a lot happening in Nigeria. There's a lot happening in Africa. But the most important thing is that you can be part of the program Monday to Friday, where we discuss all the issues happening on the other side of the continent. Let's first go into the weather. Is quite a little bit raining today, so if you're going out, make sure you go out with that umbrella. Very, very important, so that you do not get stuck in the weather. The British weather could be very, very sometime a little bit nippy. The weather is also what we can say very, very not too cold, but I can tell you that if you're one of those that love that weather, someone like me, I love the weather, but sometimes it could just be too much, and that is the reason why you have to prepare for the eventuality. So many of you that will be heading out this morning, make sure you have those umbrella with you. Very, very important that you do, so that you do not get. I'm going to be telling you what is happening on the on all the real network. I'll be telling you all the status of what we have so far on the Starr Radio UK. But one thing, like I always say, you can be part of this program from Monday to Friday, where myself, Archie, Frank, and our producer will bring you all the latest of what is happening within UK, and likewise within the context of what is happening as well on the other side of the globe. Again, many of you wants to know what is going on in Nigeria. I'll be telling you that. Let's keep again to the weather. What is the weather saying this morning, and what can I share with you? From what we have so far the weather is raining in London, where we are also transmitting from, England precisely as well. So if I take you down to Reading, it's going to be raining in Reading. Maidstone is going to be raining. We expect rain throughout, the day. So like I said, it's just about 12 degrees as well this morning. So make sure that when you're heading out this morning, the rain has literally stopped just about 8 minutes ago, but it's been a little bit raining. So Oxford, Luton, Dover, Calais, and the rest of the surroundings, Southampton, there's going to be a lot. It might become a little bit drier later on, so make sure you also follow that as well. It might get a little bit dry, but for now, what I can tell you is that the weather is still a little bit nippy out there, so make sure. We expect it to be heavy, probably maybe later in the evening, so that means that by the time I'll be heading to the studio for the Niger Voices, that literally means that I might have to also prepare for the eventuality. That is about it with the weather this morning. Like I said, tomorrow will be another weather, but for now, we're expecting, if you're driving, also please take extra precaution. The wind is about 87 degrees, and likewise the visibility. I love driving, but the question is that when you drive in London, sometimes it could be a little bit when it comes to the wind. So if you're driving, take that extra precaution, especially if you have to apply, the brakes, so that you do not have, we don't want any kind of accident on the road out there. So if you're driving, leave extra time. It is very, very important that you leave extra time as well. And that is about it with the weather. Now let's come back straight to what is happening on the London Underground this morning. It seems that the DLR is suspended this morning. The Elizabeth line has some minor delays. I remember when the Elizabeth line was eventually opened, it was a very beautiful line. I've traveled through it. The Elizabeth line is high frequency, hybrid, urban, suburban rail service in London and its suburb. And for those of you that have not been to London, whenever you come to London, you might also remember to listen to the Starr Radio UK network, but also remember that you can also travel on that Elizabeth line. A very, very beautiful line. It's just been opened just before, the death of the Queen Elizabeth. We had the state opening yesterday. I might touch on that a little bit, later on, this morning. But again, you also can follow us on the X space, on Twitter. Remember to share the program for your loved ones when we're live Monday to Friday on the morning show. So that is about it with the Elizabeth line. I could tell you that, the other services are good according to the TFL this morning. The Bekelu line is good. Central line is good. I love the Central line because, it takes you through the central of London, and I'm sure you understand the feel. When you get on the Central line, you can come out of Marble, you can come out of the Oxford Circus train station, and the moment you come out of that, you could see the beauty, the very beauty of the landmark of London as well. So for the benefit of those of you that have not been to London before, or those of you that are living outside London, thank you so much to all our producer and also all the presenter on the Starr Radio UK network. Like I said, I'll be sitting for Archie till 12, and I'll also going to be telling you more about the news headline from Nigeria later on. But for now, we're still giving you some of what is happening on the rail network. The district line is good services. Hammersmith is good services. The Jubilee line, the Metropolitan line. The Northern line seems to be a line that I love, but, for whatever reason, I think, it needs some upgrade. The Piccadilly line, for those of you that are traveling this morning, the Piccadilly line is on a good service, so make sure, you leave ample of time, because the Piccadilly line travels all the way to London Heathrow, Terminal 5 and 3 and 2. For those of you that love to travel, and probably maybe you're traveling, you might want to tell us where you're going on the, for those of you that are watching us on our Twitter and also on our YouTube channel, maybe if you're traveling this Christmas, can you tell me where you're traveling to? I haven't got any planned traveling at all, but for the benefit of those of you that wants to travel, you might also want to share that with us so that we can know where you are heading to, for the Christmas. Christmas is getting closer. Christmas is getting closer, and we look forward to Christmas. Do you look forward to Christmas? Are you one of those that celebrate Christmas, or are you one of those that say, I don't celebrate Christmas? You might want to also, share that with us as well. Remember that we are also, streaming on the Facebook. We are live as well on the X page, which is probably known as Twitter. And then we are also live on the Starr Radio UK app. Let's go straight now to tell you more about what is happening in some other African countries in terms of the news coming out of Africa this morning. Africa is so blessed. We take you from Ghana, to Kenya, to South Africa. I think Kenya have decided that maybe we should allow other African, to travel down and see, the feel of what Kenya looks like. So I think if I'm right, you might have to travel free, visa free rather, not free. You have to pay for your ticket. If you're somewhere in Africa, you can travel now to some of those places as well. So I'm going to be giving you some of those headlines, and then later on we'll be telling you more about what is happening in Nigeria. There's a lot happening, across the globe this morning. But one thing is, be rest assured that the Starr Radio UK is right on here to tell you whatever is happening. Again, there's a good service on the Victoria line, there's a good service on the Waterloo, and also the London Underground. I love the London Underground. The reason for that is it's one of those lines that you can also travel on, and you can still get services, for those of us that want to keep in touch with what is happening outside the world. If you're traveling on the London Underground, you're likely to continue to get a very good network as well. So that is about it on the services on the tube this morning, and then I'm going to be telling you a little bit more about what is happening on the road network. The road network is one area that for those of us that drive, you want to be sure that you're not traveling and you get stuck. So when you're listening to us on the Starr Radio UK, the morning show, be rest assured that I'll be telling you. I'll be also telling you what is happening on the river bus as well. But most importantly, there is a serious delay on the A13 this morning. A13, there's a serious delay, so make sure you leave ample of time for the benefit of those of you that will be traveling towards that as well. From the commercial road on the E1, E14, Tower Hamlet, there's been ongoing project there, and I can confirm to you that the commercial road, both direction at junction of A126 on the Butcher Row carriageway restriction and the use of temporary traffic signal in operation at the Rodaya Tunnel. I love the Rodaya Tunnel and the Blackwall Tunnel, but the question is, the traffic that travels through that route means that sometimes, some of us that wants to drive through the Rodaya Tunnel because you want to cut short, it gives you a bit of a shortcut, but sometimes it could be heavy traffic. On Tuesday, I was somewhere in Woolwich, and shout out to those of you in Woolwich, shout out to those of you in Peckham. The ambience of when you go to those communities that you feel at home, and you feel the impact of living within the black community in UK. So if you're one of those that are not working within the community, also make sure you participate your own when it comes to community services. Give those time, engage, especially our youth, our children as well. I'm still talking about what is happening on the network this morning. I take you straight to the A4. The A4, there's a serious delay on the A4 as well this morning. Once again, this is still the Starr Radio UK network, and as we continue to give you some of those news, traffic, and later on at about 11:30, I'm going to be telling you everything you need to know what is happening in Nigeria. But at almost 1800 hours tonight, it is all about the Niger Voices. So, but for now, the A4 has a serious delay. What is happening there? Let's take a look at what is happening on the A4 this morning. The A4, the Great West Road, both direction between A3002 Boston Manor Road and the B445 Ealing Road. Those areas seems to be very, very busy, and the reason for that again is not just because of the overhead road work that is going on. In addition, with the Windmill Road, the north and the southbound cross over is also closed. So make sure if you're traveling on the road, you're heading to the airport this morning and you're going to be traveling through that direction, please leave ample of time because the airline doesn't wait for nobody. As they say, the airline is not going to wait for you. So make sure you leave ample of time. Let's come to the A406. I love the A406 because, from the A406, you can travel out of London and you could connect onto the M1. I remember some few years back, when I first started driving, I was making my way back home from Auburn, and then I end up getting onto the A406, but for whatever reason, as at the time, we don't have the kind of, the Google map and what we have right now, the Waves and other, what you'd normally have then is a map. You have this map, you study the map, you look at the direction where you're going to be coming up, but for whatever reason, I end up turning onto the M1, and by the time my younger sister woke up, we were like far away from the next exit point. So if you're driving, make sure you study the road network very well. So I can tell you that on the A406 Telford Road westbound at the junction of Hastings Road, lane 2 of those have been closed to facility emergency according to the Thames Water this morning. So if you're traveling on the A406, leave ample of time as well. On the A1, there's no exceptional delay. The A10 seems to be no problem on the A10. The A12, there's no problem. The A2, the A20, the A21, the A23, A24, A3, A316, and the A40. My cousin seems to travel a lot of time on the A40 on his way back home. A41, there's no problem, and there's also no exceptional delay on the Blackwall Tunnel. Central London seems to be very quiet. There's no protest going on right there, but make sure over the weekend you follow us so that you can find out if there's any protest. There's been continuous protests every weekend on the Central London because of what is happening in the Middle East. So make sure that you follow us on the Starr Radio UK so that you'll be aware of what is happening when it comes to the current situation on that part as well. We don't want you to travel to the Central London and you find out that there's a protest. So remember to follow us also on the Starr Radio UK. Very, very important. You can follow us on www.starradiouk.com. Very, very important. Follow us on those platforms and you will be able to find out as many of what we do on there as well. I'm going to come back again, to the road network because we want to keep our listeners moving. And if you're driving, you could turn it up a little bit, but make sure you're not disturbing the other drivers as well. But for now, make sure you apply the brakes on time. It is still windy out there. It's been raining all day. And, one thing is when you drive, and you're driving inside the these type of weather, especially we expect many of you to have service and upgrade your car because the weather changed from winter to summer, from summer to winter. So it is important that you take those cars to the mechanic and make sure that you have everything working. How do you feel when you drive in the winter and your heater is not working? Imagine getting into the vehicle, you switch on the engine and then you turn on the heater and you realize that for whatever reason you should have serviced that before traveling. So again, that would mean that your windscreen will be, you would have to open the window because the heating system will not be able to do the job since it is not working. So we expect many of our listeners to make sure that your vehicle are roadworthy, just as we do expect that to happen as well in most African countries. I'm going to be telling you what is happening in Africa in just about 2 minutes. We're still telling you the road network, but once again, I'm sitting again for Archie this morning, as Archie is doing very well. He's just working behind the scene, and also Frank as well. And likewise, our producer, that is also Mr. Guyana, that is also working, and likewise all the other, presenter. I will be back again at 1800 hours, but for now, we're going to be here till 12 noon as I continue to give you all the latest updates coming out of Nigeria at exactly 11:30. Let's go and see what is happening in Africa this morning. There's a lot of news coming out of Africa. What do you want me to tell you? I can say that thousands of people have fled under a fresh ethnic killings in Sudan, Darfur. Sudan has been in the public domain for a very long time. I'm sure those of you that have been following Sudan would understand that. But this morning again, is a very sad situation. I can confirm that, there is so much ethnic cleansing going on. There has been a significant increase in the number of people that are fleeing a fresh violence in Sudanese region of Darfur, according to the medical charity says. Witnesses have accused the paramilitary rapid support forces and the allied militias of carrying out ethnic killings against non-Arabs in the West Darfur. The RSF did not immediately comment on the claims, but he had earlier said it was not involved in what is described as a tribal conflict. So we hope that situation will be under control in Darfur. Let me take you to what is happening in the Red Sea in Ethiopia. The Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed eyes the Red Sea. This is quite interesting because yesterday I was actually reading a book to my son, and the book says Ocean Sea, Red Sea. Is it always red? But it seems that Ethiopia, there's a flaming tension as we speak right now. Ethiopia is abuzz with rumors of a new war, which will be Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed fought in 5 years. There's so much war going on in Africa. That literally means that Africa will continue to be unstable, and that means that the influence of those that are creating this proxy war could be a big problem. You're still listening to the Star Radio UK network this morning as I sit for Archie, and likewise, like I said, at 11:30 we go straight to what is happening in Nigeria, but for now I'm telling you what is going on across Africa. As well as importing weapons and mobilizing his army, Mr. Abiy, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, who was awarded the Nobel Prize in 2019 for his rapprochement with Eritrea, has been saying that access to the sea is an essential question. This is what we say to some of our listeners as well in Nigeria, especially the Yorubas, to say, look, the moment you lose your waterways, that will be the end of it. Ethiopia, most obvious target is the Eritrean Red Sea port of Assab, which was part of Ethiopia until Eritrean independence more than 30 years ago. Since 1998, that's about almost 25 years ago, Ethiopian and Eritrean war and the closure of the border between the two countries, the Assab dogs have been rustling away while Ethiopia trade has been channeled through neighboring Djibouti. Let's take you through what is happening in South Africa. It seems that there's a news coming out of South Africa this morning as well. But most importantly, like I said, there's a lot going on. Ghana. Now, let me touch on Ghana first. Ghana renal unit reopened after 5-month closure. A major renal unit in Ghana, publicity funded by Kolobo Teaching Hospital in the capital, Accra, has been reopened after a 5-month closure. Imagine after close where patients that are suffering from kidney, I'm not too sure why it was shut down, but the country's largest treatment center for patients suffering kidney disease was shut because of budgetary. Africa again, budgetary issues. It was unable to pay for every need of those needing the services. I do donate blood in UK every 12 weeks, and those bloods are given to those that are in need of it, and we expect our community in UK to do the same thing as well. This week, the hospital management announced that it was in collaboration with the Ministry of Health to resolve the debt resulting from the cost under recovery. In just 8 minutes, I'll be telling you everything you need to know in Nigeria, but for now, we're touching on what is going on in Africa. Because of the time permit, let's go straight to what is going on as well in other part of Africa this morning. Salah set Gaza social media example for sport. Egypt and Liverpool forward Mohamed Salah is praised for the tone of his statement on the ongoing conflict in Middle East. We hope that there will be peace in the Middle East, and we hope that things will be resolved as quickly as possible. Scores of Zambia opposition MPs suspended amid a row. 17 Zambia opposition member of parliament have been suspended from the parliament for 30 days following a disruption of the House session last week. Africa. UK and the United States, again, just as they issue security alert in Nigeria, they are also issuing a fresh security alert on Uganda. According to the British High Commissioner in Uganda, has warned of a growing terror threat in Uganda, including targeting of foreigners, hours after the United States Embassy issued a similar alert. If you remember that last week, the United States issued a security alert to all the major hotels in Nigeria, the major hotels in the city, as they're warning their citizens to stay away from this hotel. The Nigerian government responded back quickly yesterday, saying that that is going to have big impact on the investment in Nigeria. Both the diplomatic mission on Tuesday warned their citizens against attending large gatherings, including worship activities. We've told you about what is happening in Ethiopia. Again, the Ethiopian forces are accused of drone strikes in Amara. Drone is one of the latest technology being used to fight war. We saw that in Ukraine and Russia, and we are seeing that currently in the Middle East as well. Nigeria reportedly canceled a visit by the Czech Republic Prime Minister. Wow, Nigeria has cancelled a planned visit by the Czech Republic Prime Minister Petr Fiala, severe Czech media outlet says. Why is that? Nigeria has informed us that it's unable to provide an adequate reception and program. So we have agreed to cancel the visit of the Czech Republic government spokesperson Vaka Smokla, told the Czech daily paper. Nigeria is yet to comment. They will never comment on that. Criminals have declared war on South Africa ministers. Oh God, what's going on in South Africa? 25 minutes past 11, it is still the 8th day of the month of 11, 2023, as I sit for Archie, and likewise we'll be telling you everything that needs to be known when it comes to the news headline from Nigeria. South Africa Police Minister Becky Cele says criminals have declared war on citizens following a surge in the crime levels in the country. This is after the country's transport minister was robbed at a gunpoint in daring attack on Monday. St. Louis Chikugan was traveling on KwaZulu Natal to Kwantang when the incident happened. We nearly lost a minister that would have been shot and killed. We hope that security will be protected. Somalia, there's a flood fatality that have now risen to 29 people. The death toll from the ongoing flash flood in Somalia has risen to 29. I remember the flood that took place, in Libya, killed so many people. We continue to hope that, nature will hold back and let us save as many lives as well. The flooding has left many people injured and affected, estimated 850,000 according to the agency. Similar things happen as well in Nigeria as well. Wise word for those of you is, one's propensity to watch flight will lead him to start fighting. Again, the proverb for the day this morning, one's propensity to watch fight will lead him to start fighting. A Bambi proverb sent by Chisimba Melongo in Zambia. That is about it. Couple died after hotel fumigate inquest. Oh my Lord, what is going on? Well, let's now start this from Nigeria. Some of the latest news coming out of Nigeria. It seems that the Irish chef have now unseated our own chef. I'm sure some of you remember when there was an ongoing cooking record by Hilda Baci. There with me. Hilda Baci, excuse me, that has graciously handed over a title, wishing Alan Fishy huge congratulations. They didn't even allow her to enjoy it for 1 year. What is your take on that? Do you think it was fair on Hilda Baci that the award she got for the longest cooking in the world has now been taken away from her after Alan Fishy, who is based in Japan, cooked for 119 hours 57 minutes at his Irish-themed restaurant in Matusu, according to the Guinness World Record said. Mr. Fishy's new record means that Nigerian chef Hilda Baci has been dethroned as the world record holder. She won the title earlier this year, causing a sensation in Nigeria. A closely followed world record attempt kick off a craze in a country with people trying to get themselves in the record books by doing things like crying. I remember somebody was going to cry for a long time, people singing non-stop. But I can now confirm to Nigerians and those of you outside Nigeria, the diaspora, that Hilda Baci, that stood earlier at 93 hours 11 minutes have now lost the record to an Irish Alan Fisher that now has the Guinness World Record. Maybe somebody in Nigeria should say, we no go agree, we no go agree. And then what you need to do, you need to start again. So that is about that. Now let's go straight to some of the other news that is happening in Nigeria this morning. My name is Olayomi Koiki. I'm also sitting here for Archie this morning. There's a lot going on in Nigeria, but one thing is, rest assured that the Star Radio UK team are going to be giving you all those headlines as well. So many WhatsApp groups. What do you discuss in your WhatsApp group? Maybe you might want to share some of that with us this morning. Good morning to you, Mr. Semiu Adeyemi, that is listening to us, and those of you that have connected on the sister broadcast as well. Let me go straight to what is happening in some of the news headlines that I have this morning. Once again, I'm sitting for Archie this morning, and likewise, Archie is doing very well. Archie will be back with us again tomorrow, God's willing. But for now, let's start with opposition party resident condemn the not absentee governors. What is going on there? Let's take a look at that. According to the report coming out this morning, there is a sustained and worsened public outcry from severe residents and stakeholders in the north over the absence of their elected governors, who rather than sit in their various states, prefer to govern people from Abuja. That is Yaya Bello. Yaya Bello does not live in Kogi State, but is governing from Abuja. According to the Gombe State Healthman Mohammed Inwu Yaya, who doubles as the chairman of the Northern Governors Forum, and his Kwara counterpart and chairman Nigerian Governors Forum Abdurrahim Abdurrazak. I'm not sure whether Kwara has now become part of North. Have been fingered as the worst culprit in this category of absentee governors. Apart from the two, other governors also identify as being always absent from their domain are Kogi State Governor, Sokoto State Governor, and Zamfara State Governor. So these governors are running their state from Abuja. This development was told by Arewa to the investigation that revealed has attracted hue and the cry of the citizens and residents who say it is, were they told to be governing from Abuja, just like Akeredolu is also doing the same thing from Ibadan. According to the governorship candidate of the African Democratic Congress during the 2023 poll in Gombe State, Nafiu Bala, they continue absent. Well, nobody's going to vote for, AAC or the other political party because they'll prefer to vote for PDP and APC, but those political parties will rather run the state from Abuja. According to the African Democratic Congress, governorship candidate in Gombe State, says that the continual absence of the state governors is in no doubt impacting negatively on good governance. Definitely. If you are running your state from Abuja, how do you expect to get deliverance of the governance in the state? Bala also faulted a situation where the governors spend most of their time in Abuja, Dubai, and sometimes in Turkey and other parts of the world from where it governs the citizens of the state who elect him to the office. The question is, what is your take on that? Maybe we might talk about that, during the Niger Voices as well. Let's come back again. Nigeria, most dangerous place to be a Christian. I am not surprised. I am just not surprised. All you need to do is go to Southern Kaduna and see how many people have been killed. Go to Jos, go to Plateau, come down to the southwest, where in Ondo State many people were massacred. A non-partisan Christian organization, International Christian Concern, has included Nigeria among the most dangerous places for Christians in the world. The organization noted that the extremists and militants and terrorists have been killing Christians in the country and disposing them of their lands in the last 20 years. This was contained in the organization 2023 report on Christian persecutors in the world. The organization stated that Nigerians leaders have tied the attacks around farmer and elders clashes laced with ethnic conflict. What a very sad, report there as well. However, the ICC report described the killings and other atrocity as genocide against Christians. It partly read, Nigeria is arguably the most dangerous place to be a Christian in the world today. In the north, very hostile group of Muslim extremists have attacked and devastated the minority population of Christians in the Middle Belt, armed Islamic terrorists known as Fulani militants have been killing Christians, stealing their land at a prodigious rate for the last 20 years. I wonder what the Yoruba will be saying now. We are concerned, and that is why some of us are saying maybe it is time now for the dissolution of Nigeria and let everybody save their own citizens. Between mass murder and land stealing, millions of Christians have been displaced since May 2011. Boko Haram alone has been recorded as being responsible for the death of almost 100,000 Nigerians. Leaders tell the West that this is a complicated problem between herders and farmers. I do not believe that is all lies. With tribal overlay, but the truth is that we are witnessing a genocide of Christians in the North and Middle Belt accompanied by immense land grab. The ICC report also said no fewer than almost 1,000 Christians were killed in 55 attacks between March and July this year. Almost 1,000 Christians have been killed in Nigeria between March 2023 and July 2023. Whether the world acknowledges the plight of Christians or not, the country has become a burial ground for Christians, according to the report. The report noted that Sharia law is practiced in 12 northern states, as also endanger non-Muslims in those states. It says that Sharia law as applied today in Nigeria violate the principles of secularism and endangers non-Muslim religious communities in the North and the Middle Belt region. Despite repeatedly claiming to be a secular nation, 12 northern states in Nigeria have decided to adopt what we call Islamic Sharia criminal law, meaning that Christians do not participate as equal members of society. Given its inherently religious nature, Sharia is a problematic when applied, particularly when they are charged under a criminal Sharia law. The organization called on the United States of America to add Nigeria back to the list of countries with severe violations of religious freedom. I'm not sure why America removed Nigeria from that list. He also went further to state, Nigerian domestic security policy addresses the needs of the particular vulnerable religious communities by responding to threats quickly and ensuring the perpetrators are brought to justice. The reason why I've decided to read all this through is so that we can continue to highlight the genocide being committed in Nigeria to Christians and non-Christians and Muslims as well. That Nigeria be added back to countries of particular concern list designation it held in 2020 before being removed in 2021. The United States foreign aid in Nigeria be conditioned on substantial improvement around religious freedom, including the repeal of blasphemy. Remember that we lost a young Nigerian, Deborah. Deborah was killed in Nigeria during a WhatsApp group conversation. She was lynched to death, and also till date nobody has been penalized for that. It seems that Niger State governor is saying that we will shut down Nigeria, just as the Northern Consensus Forum told us that they will stop bringing food to the Southwest. The question is, are we now being threatened by the North as we go into the next headline? 11:37, like I said, this program comes to an end at 12 noon, as we will be coming back later on at 1800 hours for the Niger Voices. The Niger State governor demands 13% derivation from oil revenue. Is it their right to say that we can no longer be giving you the Candy Dam, we will shut it down, and other national power infrastructure? We demand compensation for our people. Every resources that come from Niger State must be compensated. This is coming from Governor Umaru Bago, has now threatened to shut down the Kanji Dam and the other power infrastructure supply to the Delta region if the federal government does not extend the payment of 13% derivation fund enjoyed by the oil-producing state to Niger State. Do you think that it is fair that Niger State be given 13% derivation, or should we say that maybe they should shut down the Kanji Dam and maybe it is time for the dissolution, or is the federal government going to negotiate? Good morning to you, Grandma Leah Ajayi, and welcome for those of you that are watching us directly on the Star Radio UK YouTube channel this morning. Let's go back again to that particular story. We will take the federal government to the Supreme Court unless 13% derivation from our land, water, air, and grass and everything given to us is paid. We need 13% derivation for water supplied to Delta. Our people are ravaged and displaced year in, year out because of the flow of water from Niger to Delta State. The Niger governor yesterday, or Monday rather, while receiving the Federal Commission of National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and the Internal Displaced Persons, Tijani Tiamiu. What do you think about that? There's just so much. Over 115,000 children are malnourished in Zamfara State is one of the headlines as well. According to the severe acute malnutrition, 115,146 children are with severe acute malnutrition have been identified in Zamfara State. The 2023 Nutrition Standard Monitoring and Assessment of Relief and Transition Survey has revealed. According to Abraham Mahama, the nutrition specialist in the Sokoto Field Office of the United Nations Children Fund, UNICEF, disclosed this in Sokoto yesterday. Mr. Mahama was making a presentation on the findings of the survey conducted in June for the Sokoto, Katsina, and Zamfara. We hope something will be done to save as many as well. No vote count in polling units where violence is recorded. This is coming from INEC. Koiki State, Imo State will be going into another election, governorship election as well in Bayelsa State this Saturday. The Independent National Electoral Commission says it will not count votes in any polling unit where violence is recorded during Saturday's governorship election in Bayelsa State. This is coming from the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, says in Yenagua during a stakeholders meeting. Mr. Yakubu was represented by the INEC commissioner supervising Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, and River, Mrs. May Agbamuchu Mubu, says the commission would deploy beavers to all polling units for the election. That is coming again from the headline this morning. Let's take you more say to what is happening, in just about a few minutes. Bear with us there. Bear with us there. That was just a very urgent delivery coming through. Once again, this is still the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. As we continue some of the news headline in 15 minutes, we'll be bringing the program to an end. Late singer Mohbad died inside the car. He didn't die. He didn't make it to the hospital. The wife tells Lagos Corona. Mohbad issue is still ongoing on. Nigerian Anti-Graft Agency (EFCC) arraigned 11 students of the Obafemi Awolowo University in Osun State for internet fraud. German says 14,000 Nigerians might be facing deportation for lacking identification cards. That is a serious one there. Alleged 4.8 billion fraud court order arrest of a businessman Siletu Ibeto over refusal to appear for trial. Stranded Nigerians envoy cry out as foreign minister Tuga direct junior workers to deny them official cars, lock them out of the residence. Interesting. President Bola Tinubu appoint and indicted by EFCC for diverting 3 billion from Lagos account. I think we said all these a few weeks back. Let's go back again to what is happening more on the news, and then we go straight on the social media at 15 to 12 noon. LASU removes student affair dean over certificate racketeering allegation. Not again. And we said earlier, Mohbad widow testified before the Corona recall singer last moment. It seems that Mohbad never got to the hospital before he died. Car dealers get fake alert. Customer abscond during test drive. Wow. How did that happen? Once again, 5 people have been jailed for circulating ex-speaker nude video obtaining 38 million naira. Really? What happened there? Justice Nathaniel Ayo Emmanuel of the Federal High Court in Oshogbo in Osun State yesterday sentenced 5 men tried for cyber stalking and defrauding the ex-speaker of Osun State House of Assembly, Timothy Oweye of the sum of 38 million naira. Sometime in 2018, a 13-second nude video of Oweye had gone viral on the internet. How? Who recorded it? Was it recorded by someone? Was he recording himself? Was he sending it to somebody and eventually got it to somebody else? In the video, Oweye was accosted by some people who accused him of coming into their community to... Oh, I remember that video. I'm sure many Nigerians will remember that video where a man was, in a community performing ritual. The Osun State Police Command arrested those in the video who were alleged to have used the clip to obtain around 38 million naira from Oweye before the clip was reportedly released. So the money was paid and the video was still then, allowed to be released on the internet. These individuals have now been sentenced to jail. Let's go back again to what is happening in the business news this morning, as many Nigerians are struggling when it comes to the economy. Naira devaluation boosts government revenue by 713 billion. The NPA plans $1 billion port rehabilitation. Is that going to be for the benefit of Nigerians or just the foreign expatriate? Federal government saves 1.45 trillion from subsidy removal. Many Nigerians would then be asking, if you have removed the subsidy, where is the money being channeled into? The federal government has so far saved 1.45 trillion naira from earnings generated from the removal of subsidy on the premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, between June and September. This is according to the FEC allocation document that was obtained from the website of the Nigerian Governors Forum and the National Bureau of Statistics. According to the analysts, show that the fund remitted monthly to the non-oil revenue, saying account of the government received the sum of 696.93 billion in June and 389.7 billion in July, 71 billion in August and 289 billion in September. President Bola Tinubu announced the removal of the petrol subsidy during his inaugural address May 29 this year, saying subsidy is gone and is gone. Before the removal of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited says it spent 1.8 trillion on subsidy payment between January 2023 to May 2023, 55% higher than the amount paid during the period last year. So who is actually making money out of the subsidy before it was removed? Bauchi State hands over airport to federal government. Why? Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa International Airport in Bauchi State has now been handed over to the federal government for effective management and economic development of the state. It was handed over to the federal government through the Airport Authority of Nigeria. So it seems that Bauchi State can no longer look after the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa International Airport. The airport was built in 2013 by Isa Yagudu, the administration, and had been managed by Bauchi State government. So why can't they manage it? Speaking at the official handover yesterday at the VIP, the managing director of FAN, Kabi Mohammed, told journalists that the government has agreed to hand over the facility to the federal government. Before now, the airport has been jointly operated by the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, FAN, and the Bauchi government. In the most recent discussion looking at how to optimally use the airport, Bauchi government graciously accept to cede the operation of the airport to FAN, not because they cannot operate it, but they believe that handing it to the federal government will open the state to more opportunities. Mohammed said Bauchi and other states in the northeast will benefit more from the new arrangement. Let's hope that is the case. Do you think that it is worth it? It takes us to Ebonyi, as Ebonyi to repair. While one is handing over the airport to the federal government, it seems that Ebonyi have decided to repair airport runway. It's going to cost 13.7 billion. According to the Commissioner for Aviation and Technology in Ebonyi State, Mrs. Ngozi Obichukwu, has said that the state government will spend 13.7 billion naira to fix the worn-out runway of the Chuba Okadigbo International Airport, Ona Eke. Obechukwu, who stated this in Abakaliki on Tuesday, named Infrastructure Development Company as the contractor handling the project. We hope that the project will be standard, and we hope that the project will be in time, and we hope that the project would not be inflated. She said that the project will be completed within 8 months. Let's hope so. According to the commissioner, the runway, when completed, will boost economic viability and development of the state by greater percentage. Almost every state needs an airport, but it seems that Ekiti State has abandoned that airport that was commissioned some few years back. Money has been paid, and yet nothing seems to be working. NNPCL unveils new crude grade ships, 1.9 million. According to the report, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited yesterday says it had launched a new crude oil grade Nimbe and its ship its first cargo in October, consisting of 950,000 barrels. According to the router, quoting that the executive director of the crude and condensate at the NNPC Trading, Mayu Idris, on the sideline of the Argus European Crude Conference in London, said that the first cargo of the new grade was sold to France and Netherlands. Nimba is similar to other distilled-rich grades such as Focados, Bunga, and Egina. The low-sulfur grade command a premium to the global Brent benchmark and is a good grade to compete with Brazilian and Azeri crude grade for European refiners, she added. So we can't refine it, we have it, and we sell it off. So 950,000 barrels were sold to France and Netherlands. Production of Nimba is currently around 50,000 barrels per day, but this NNPCL said it is aimed to rise to 80,000 barrels per day. We don't have any problem with the barrels, with the money. The question is, what is the money being used to do when it comes to the payment? We sell crude oil, but are we able to develop our community? 774 local government, and as we speak today, Nigeria is still not working. The development comes on the heels of recovering the crude oil production, which went from a low of 900,000 barrels. We're running out of time, so I'm going to move swiftly as I'm going to take one more from the business and then go straight to what is going on as well in the social media. NEPE Gizi promote agri sector productivity. According to the Nigerian Export Promotion Council and GIZ Moved have collaborated to promote productivity in cashew and rice value chain. It is a release. NIPEC noted that the partnership was geared towards engaging critical stakeholders in the cashew and the rice value chain. This is coming from the Chief Executive of the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, Mrs. Noye Ayeni, who was represented by Lawal Act, the Director of Policy and Strategy, during a one-day program on intervention in cashew and rice value chain. So that is about that on what is happening on the news network this morning, and I'm going to go straight to what is happening on the X this morning as well. Once again, this is still the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. My name is Olayomi Koiki. I'm also sitting in for Archie, that is working behind the scene. Archie will be on with us again tomorrow. I'll be coming back tonight at exactly 6 p.m. That will be 7 p.m. local time in Nigeria. Dollar to Naira seems to be trending this morning. Mazinam Dekano is trending. Bright Chimeze is trending. And likewise, Oshodi is trending. Maybe we should start with Oshodi. Not too sure why Oshodi is trending this morning. But as many of you know, that Oshodi is very unique in Lagos State. I'm just trying to say why it's trending. Okay. I can't find anything. Okay. Flood takes over Lagos Road. It seems that Lagos is going under the ocean. Flood has taken over Apapa Oshodi Road in Lagos State due to the heavy downpour. Let's hope that the government, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, will do whatever it takes to minimize flood in Lagos State. And I think that is how far I can get from Oshodi. So let's go back again to see what is more trending this morning. Let's go straight to Benin. Benin seems to be trending again this morning. I'm not sure why, but all I can tell you is that Yoruba people from Benin Republic on this one, I can't play the audio out. When my mom asked me to, I'm not too sure what that is all about. The story of the giant Benin prince, Araruna, who could uproot trees with bare hands. Wow. I've never seen this before. Have you? According to what we have here, Prince Idubo, also known as Aharuna, would have been the Oba or the king of Benin, as at the time the great kingdom was flourishing, but was cheated of his birthright, which legend says was given to his younger brother, a Sige who was born on the same day he was. Oba Ozulu, also called Ozulu Ibaromi, Ozulu in Konka, was an important Oba king in the history of Benin Kingdom. He reigned between 1483 and 1514, as at the time there was nothing called Nigeria until the British amalgamated Nigeria in 1914 and led to the independence in 1960. One of the Oba Ozulu's wife, Queen Ohama, gave birth to a baby boy named Udubo, who was fondly called Aruna. Aruna did not cry immediately after his birth. During that era, it was considered a taboo to announce the birth of a mute baby to the king. However, another wife of the Oba Ozulu, Queen Idia, the subject of the famous Festac 77 mask, put to bed later in the same day, but unlike Queen Ohame, a baby named Osawa cried as soon as it was born. Osawa's birth was reported to Oba Ozulu, who instantly performed necessary rite and declared him his first son and crown prince, automatically making Aruna the second son. Growing up, Aruna constantly felt sad about being cheated of his birthright. He often asked his mother, Queen Ohime, if the king was truly his father, because he felt a father would not deny his son what he truly owns. Actually, Oba Zulu had two sons before Aruna, Udobo and Osawe, but both were kidnapped by Odomomu thieves of children during the period of the slave trade. As at the time went on, Udobo grew up to become a great warrior with imposing size and strength. He was a giant who could uproot palm tree with his bare hand. Osawa, on the other hand, quite lacked combat experience as a result of having to attend the school of Portuguese missionaries rather than joining his father on the battlefield. So you can see the history of the Benin Kingdom that has now been removed because of the amalgamation of what is called Nigeria today. If only we understand the history, we would all want to return back to where we are and who we were as indigenous people. 4 minutes before the end of the program this morning, it seems that the dollar and the naira are still dancing yo-yo. And as we say all the time, the dollar to the naira is still fluctuating. It's about 1,045 naira to the dollar, 1,234 naira to the pound, and almost 1,054 naira to the euro. Why is that so? It's because Nigeria has not been producing so much, and we have not utilized the many 60% of our youth into the production. Rather, we've been sending them to Islamic schools, and we've been sending them to Christian schools, rather than working very hard so that we can have a better future. Let's now look at what is trending. Nigeria ranked among the worst perpetrator of Christians in 2023 is coming on the XP as well. And it seems that, I have another video here says, meet Efe Ajagba, a Nigerian boxer. He knocked out opponent in 23 seconds at the Rio Olympic. When asked his secret, he says, I just focus on all the anger I had for the Nigerian government in one blow. In this fight, his opponent actually ran away. Wow. Do you do the same thing? Do you put all your anger and then you use that anger to flourish as a Nigerian wherever you are? It seems that Efe Ajagbe, a Nigerian boxer, would normally knock out his opponent in 23 seconds at the Rio Olympic. And he actually said, my secret be say, When I focus on the anger of the Nigerian government, I just put everything in one blow. That is how far I can go this morning. I'll be back later on, for more program on the Niger Voices at exactly 1800 hours. My name is Olayomi Koiki. I would like to say good morning, good afternoon for those of you that have joined us, and our producer, Mr. Francis. Thank you so much for taking, the battle while Archie continue, to do some other work behind the scene. As I leave you, I ask you again, follow us on all the social media handle this morning. My name is Olayomi Koiki, and I've been sitting here as well for Archie. This is Starr Radio UK, the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London. I'll be back later on at 1800 hours for the rest of the Niger Voices, where we would have our 2 hours to discuss issues and other areas needs to be discussed on what is going on with the self-determination and likewise with the present administration, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And I say a very good morning. And I'll give it back now to our producer to take back from me in the North London studio. Thank you so much to every one of you. Bye for now.